Welcome everyone to today's holistic spirituality session. Our topic today is the psychological effects of mantra chanting. And once more, we are fortunate to have Dhira Govinda Prabhu or David Wolf with us today as our guest speaker. Some may remember him from last time he was with us. We discussed how conscious communication can lead to enlightenment. David is known as a leading expert also in mantra research. Today we will hear a bit more about his scientific study he conducted many years ago. And the study is about the effects of chanting the Maha Mantra on stress, depression, and the trigunas. David is also has decades of experience with mantra chanting. If I'm correct, already 4 decades. Perhaps you can tell us exact years, a long time.
Since the early 1980s, I've been daily chanting, fulfilling a commitment to chant at least 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Japa. So since the early 1980s, yes.
Wow, great. Yes, the format will be such that we go through a few questions and we discuss, and then later open up for questions from the audience. And those of you who join us on Facebook, please feel free to add your, post your questions or comments in the comment section, and we will refer to them. And those on Zoom, yes, might then also raise their hand, and when the time for questions is there. So the word mantra, or like mantra chanting, mantra recitation, is something that's known globally, like practically everywhere in the world. You can find people who do sing mantras or recite mantras. It's kind of a household word also. People use it in a variety of ways, and we would also like to discuss today, okay, mantra in the traditional or original sense. What is it? What makes a mantra a mantra? And see also how can we benefit from the benefits of mantra chanting in our daily life. So without any further ado, I would give it to you, David, to maybe open up with presenting us a bit on the scientific study you did, and like from there, let's see where we go.
Okay, thank you, Keshava Madhava. Hare Krishna. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this sublime topic and discuss. So yeah, well, back in the 1990s, we conducted different studies, what's called single system design and group studies on the effects of chanting mantra, specifically what's called the Maha Mantra. It's described in the ancient Vedas, Idi Shodashakam Nam Nam Kalikama Shanashanam, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This particular mantra is especially recommended for self-realization in this age. Actually, about 2 years ago, we published the dissertation in book form, regular book form. And then in recent years, I'm part of a team that's continuing the research. Right now, there's research being done on the effects of chanting Maha Mantra on heart rate variability, heart health, like that, with very promising results. So as you said, mantra is used commonly in different ways, just like the word yoga is well known, or guru, or karma, or dharma. And so when we go to the original source literatures, we get the actual meaning of these words. So mantra has 2 syllables, like the English word mind comes from the Sanskrit mana. So that indicates the first syllable of mantra, mind, mana. And then tra means to liberate, to liberate, to free, to deliver. So a genuine mantra is sound vibration that by hearing it and chanting, reciting, or singing it, sound vibration that frees or liberates the mind from material disturbance, material miseries, from illusion, and supports the self to turn towards itself in self-discovery, and supports the self to turn towards the absolute, the supreme, in a spirit of devotion. That's the actual purpose of genuine mantra. In our group study back in the 1990s, we had 3 groups. We had a group that each day for 1 month chanted the Maha Mantra on japa beads, a group that chanted a placebo mantra, kind of some pseudo mantra that I made up, and a control group, a group that didn't do any chanting or any particular meditation. And the Maha Mantra group, with strong statistical significance, showed enhancement of life satisfaction, reducing toxic stress and depression, like that. So basically, the foundation for all the hypotheses of these studies are these ancient Vedic wisdom literatures. And so then we take the hypothesis from the Vedic philosophy, Vedic psychology, and test them according to rigorous methods of modern social science. That's what we did starting back in the 90s. And the results very much confirm the Vedic assertions. So, okay, so then as far as like how come genuine mantra works, for that, I think we talked last time when we spoke in several weeks ago, Keshava Madhava, that we did studies on the gunas, the 3 modes of nature. So the ancient Vedas describe that everything in the material context, the material sphere, is permeated by 3 modes of nature. Tamas, or the mode of inertia, Rajas, the mode of activity, and Sattva, or the mode of enlightenment. Yeah, the mode of enlightened consciousness and action. So the Vedic hypothesis basically is, to whatever extent we cultivate sattvic worldviews and sattvic habits, that will correlate positively to everything that everyone's looking for. It'll correlate positively with peace, inner peace, fulfillment, security, joy, empowerment, satisfaction, purposefulness, like that. So it's described in the Vedas, like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that everything is permeated by the gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Everything from the food we eat, to how we communicate or we don't communicate, to our sleeping habits, our relationship with money, the work we do. Okay, so that includes sound vibration. So this is, we all know from basic common sense and experience, there's sound vibration in different modes of nature. Like, so let's say if I'm in a room for an hour with some heavy punk rock, or I'm in a room for an hour with Mozart. So after that hour, I'm going to be in different consciousness, because I'm exposing myself to sound vibration in different modes. So the sattvic mode is the mode that's closest to the original vibration of the soul, right? This is basic Vedic philosophy understanding that we can do a basic experiment. We can imagine we're looking at a photo of ourselves when we were 5 years old. Now, when I look at that photo, do I say, who is this person? No, I say, that's David. That's me when I was 5. We know from basic science, chemistry, there's not one atom, not one molecule that's part of the body now that was there at 5. We can say the body grew, but that's not true. It not like the atoms and molecules and electrons grew bigger. No, there's a complete change. Still, there's some constant identity that I call David. So that indicates that the actual self is something completely non-material. We can refer to it as an irreducible quanta of consciousness. Irreducible means the existence of consciousness, the atomic unit of sentience that is actually me, through, to quote Bhagavad Gita, Dihinos min yata dehe komaram yovanamjara, tata dehantara praptirtiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. The self-realized soul, the sober person, is not bewildered by such a change. So this points to, genuine mantra chanting supports us in self-realization. Genuine mantra, it's sound vibration in what's called Shuddha Sattva. So again, there's 3 material modes of nature, tamas, rajas, and sattva. And then there's a 4th mode that's not material. It's called Shuddha Sattva. So sattva indicates, well, okay, so genuine mantra, that's why, as you said, Keshava, we can say, oh yeah, here's my marketing mantra or something like that. But so like genuine mantra is sound vibration in Shuddha Sattva. And sound vibration in Shuddha Sattva reveals absolute truth, and simultaneously it's non-different from the truth it reveals. Meaning, cognitively, even if we understand the truth, even if we don't understand, still we're impacted. Our consciousness and hearts are transformed because genuine mantra is non-different from the truth it reveals. So we're experientially associating with that truth by chanting, hearing, reciting, singing genuine mantra. So to say, the title is the psychological effects of mantra chanting. So we say psychological effects makes us happier, reduces stress, reduces depression. That's all true based on the Vedas and the statistical research in recent years and decades. In one sense, though, we can, it's a bit superfluous. It's a bit superfluous, a bit superficial. So more to the core, more to the essence, genuine mantra chanting composed of Shuddha Sattva, no tinge of the material modes of nature. Genuine mantra chanting powerfully moves us to self-realization. It's described, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. The nature of the self is to grow, to expand in self-awareness. When we're not doing that, we're stagnant, we're dull, we're depressed, we're irritable, we're fearful. And to the extent that, because our nature is to expand in awareness, which includes expanding in bliss and joy. And so a genuine mantra supports us in that most vital process of the self connecting with itself in self-exploration, self-discovery, supporting us to realize I'm not the body, I'm the owner of the body. That's what Dihino, that's what Dehi means, the owner. Dihinos min yata dehe. I think last time I shared this story, I'll share it briefly. I was conducting a presentation at a series of hospitals in Colorado in 2014. And so most of the audience was doctors, nurses, other medical professionals. So I started the presentation. I said, let's say someone comes to you and says, I've hurt my finger. So in that simple phrase, my finger, there are 2 entities. There's the finger and the owner of the finger. So who are you treating? Are you treating the finger or the owner of the finger? So they were like, well, it's a simple question, but we never really thought about it. So my emphasis is it's a very important question, because the finger essentially is made of the same stuff as this pen or the window shade. It's dead matter. There's no healing potency in the finger. The healing potency is in that irreducible of consciousness that's the owner of the finger. So genuine mantra helps the mind to stop identifying with dead matter and to stop being under the illusion that by enjoying dead matter, I'll be fulfilled. And it supports the mind to support us in that process of the self connecting with itself and self-discovery, realizing who we are as the owner of the finger. And so whether we understand the philosophy, whatever extent we understand the philosophy, genuine mantra moves us to that self-discovery, that self-realization. And that's kind of like, you might say that's the explanation of why chanting genuine mantra reduces stress and increases joy like that. So those are some basic concepts around the psychology of mantra chanting.
Thank you very much for those elaborations. So I think you beautifully explained how like the effects take place, you know, revealing absolute truth or liberating the mind from stress and so on. Before we started, I asked you, and I would like to come back to this, if you could give us some kind of illustration to kind of visualize a bit more like what happens when mantra meets mind. For example, we have here, like I have the smartphone.
Yeah.
I can imagine it could be covered by sand.
Okay.
So if my phone starts to vibrate, the sand shakes off. So there could be kind of an understanding when we say the self vibrates, the mantra is vibration. And I was always wondering, I tried to get to, at least I think it would help me grasp a bit more what mantra does if I could get some kind of illustration on, like, if you understand the mind or look at the mind as some form of substance or like some form of energy, and then look at the mantra as some form of substance or like energy, and the dynamic between them, to kind of see a bit like what exactly does the mind do? Because in a sense it sounds a bit like a mechanical process. A sound makes this, and with the one who applies the sound, but it seems there's a way more specific dynamic to it. And if you could perhaps enter a bit into this to kind of visualize or like illustrate us a bit the connection, like how mantra meets mind and what happens then.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to your question there. I appreciate the subtlety, and yeah, I appreciate this contemplation and exploration. Yes. So well, first of all, we can get, like, because psychology, that this word, it generally refers, you know, to understanding the mind. And then, well, actually, there's a saying about modern psychology. First modern psychology lost its soul, then it lost its consciousness, and then it lost its mind altogether. Okay, so I think it's a great saying. And if we look at the history of, like, lost its soul, I mean, like, the whole idea of that non-material particle that animates, that was taken out, if we go back even 120 years, and then lost its consciousness. And then if we look at, like, you know, the development of behaviorism into the 1950s, then the theory is there's no such thing as mind even, right? We're just machines. There's nothing subtle. Of course, everything has its use, including behaviorist approaches. And so I know you're familiar with our Sattva Tov program, Sattva Tov seminars, Sattva Tov coach training, that we're endeavoring to give psychology with, to use another analogy Bhaktivedanta Swami uses, with the one in front of the string of zeros. And so we can try this method, that method. And from my point of view, that's why so much of psychology and psychiatry has become, take this pill. It's become, just take this pill, and then we'll adjust the machine. We'll adjust the machine. And so I have many people who come to me for coaching, counseling, therapy, and they go, yeah, that they They know they could go someplace, but we'll essentially tell them, take this pill and we'll adjust the, you know, the brain part of the machine. But they want something more about realizing who they are as an empowered spiritual being. So just like if we have a string of zeros, we have a string, what's the value? The value is 0. We put the 1 in front, okay, then the 1 gives value. The zeros can mean the physical health, the economic situation, the house we live in, you know, it's all empty, we know, without that self-realization component. So it's described in Bhagavad Gita, Bhumira Ponalo Vayu Kamana Buddha Evacha Ahankara Vimuratma Bina Prakriti Astata. Okay, so it describes that there's 8 material elements, and there's earth, water, fire, air, ether, five relatively gross material elements. And then and then there's 3 subtle material elements. So this, you know, for me, this explanation of psychology from Bhagavad Gita, it's so much more complete and satisfying than anything I got in Western psychology. And I have a lot of degrees in these programs. So the subtle material body is composed of 3 primary elements: mind, intelligence, and ahankara, or false ego. So ego means sense of who we are. So in this process of bhakti, the process given in Bhagavad Gita, the goal isn't to give up ego. In some spiritual approaches, the goal is give up ego. Ego means sense of who I am, and I am someone. I'm spirit soul. I'm an eternal servant of the supreme person. So we want to retain that ego and give up false ego. So over the past 45 years or so, I've experienced 2 basic approaches to transformation. One I'll refer to as the blank slate approach, where the idea is that at the core, we're nothing. I've seen seminars where they come from the blank slate approach, kind of like a voidist approach. And the idea is that on the foundation of this nothingness, we can invent any possibility we choose. So that's not where we come from in the Safatova approach or the Vedic approach. The Vedic approach, I call it the diamond approach, the diamond approach, where at the core, we're that irreducible quantum of consciousness. We're not nothing. We're that eternal spirit soul. And our qualities have been covered, just like a diamond. A diamond is always brilliant and strong and effulgent and radiant, and it can get covered. It can get covered by dirt, dust, mud, but the diamond always has its quality. I was just reading earlier today, I was reading a transcribed lecture from Bhaktivedanta Swami. He gave the example of like a knife. A knife is always sharp, but if it gets covered by thick dirt, then it's not able to cut. Its qualities are covered. So, Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapadam. Marjanam, it's a cleansing process. We might imagine, okay, white light is always light. Okay, white light is always clear and shiny, but the light can be covered. The light can be covered by paper. It could be covered by blue paper, red paper, representing tamas gun, rajas gun. So we're taking the covering of the light and cleansing it so that we're cleansing the mind. We're cleansing the mind so that the light shines through without being filtered and screened by dirt. And so the mind is like a subtle covering of the spirit soul. And so we're cleansing that, just like we might imagine the light's covered by some encasing, and it's filled with dirt and it's filled with dirt and grime, and so the actual light hardly comes through. So we're cleansing that encasing. We're cleansing that encasing so that it's transparent. And as we do that more and more, we cleanse the mind, and the mind becomes our friend in our process of self-realization, our friend of bringing us to the actual original bliss of the soul, rather than our enemy. Enemy means the mind's again and again trying to entangle us to enjoy the illusory temporary material gratifications. So we're cleansing the mirror, we're cleansing that encasing so that it's more and more transparent. And mantra is a cleansing process. I like how you said that, Keshava, that it's not mechanical. That, okay, I mean, in one sense, transcendental sound vibration, genuine mantra, it will have a purifying effect. At the same time, to the extent that my heart in doing the chanting, to the extent that my heart's in a mood of service, to the extent that my heart is in a mood of genuine, how can I serve mantra? How can I serve God? How can I serve the Supreme? Then we're more and more receptive for the cleansing process to be powerful. Even if we're not in a mood of service, and we're covered by the technical term is anartas or aparad offenses, anartas, still mantra has effect. At the same time, we're spending a lot of energy to block the effect. And to the extent that more and more we're sincerely, genuinely in the mood of how can I serve? How can I serve the Absolute, serve the Supreme? Then we're opening our heart to fully receive the transformational vibration of mantra.
Thank you. Very beautifully explained. Thank you very much. So yes, instead of looking at the mantra as some type of tool you might use to your, which is at your we say disposal. Is this the right word?
At disposal, that's correct. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You see, it's about connecting in an active kind of personal relationship actually with the mantra, not seeing it as something impersonal that works on me, but actually something personal I work with.
Yeah.
And then like the effect can take place. And in the tradition we practice, I mean, you also mentioned before other traditions that might have a very impersonal concept of the self and so on, but they also apply mantras. Like in Buddhism, there's also a lot about sound vibration and chanting and so on. And now we find in our tradition different types of mantras, like the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, is a collection of names we could, to simplify it, like certain powerful names that are added. And then there are other mantras that contain next to the names syllables, like the confidential Gayatri mantra that says Vidmahi, Dhimahi, it's meditate upon, it's try to understand as such, and so on. Like, so they give more of a specific direction of how you're supposed to think or meditate.
Yeah.
And then there is another form of mantra. You quoted also some verses, which I also find interesting in the Upanishad. This a small book consisting of 18 mantras, which are verses or shlokas, which contain concrete philosophical statements. Like the first verse, Ishavasyam idam sarvam, and so on, establishing the Supreme Lord is, etc., the owner and possessor. And I personally can relate very much to what you explained with the mantra chanting, purifying the consciousness in terms of serving the Lord by, I guess my approach is true understanding. Although it is said it's not necessarily the approach, you can also by not, I would say philosophically understanding, gain the effect. I just see like with, for example, the Upanishad mantra in terms of a verse, I can practice myself, I adopt this type of worldview that the philosophical viewpoint that is presented there. And from there, I can relate to this Supreme Lord, Ishavasyam, accordingly. And then in comparison, though, I wonder if it's simply the names. Sometimes I try to get my head around it, I guess. how do I exactly,
Okay.
connect that? Maybe you get what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I think I appreciate your sharing and question. Okay, well, kind of what's happening for me there. Yeah, so that's why every Vedic verse is a mantra. All 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavad, everyone's a mantra. Yes. Om Punam Madaha Punam Idam Puna Pudam Udachte Punasya Pramade Pudam Eva Vishishate. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, he instituted generally, like before philosophy discussion, chant the mantras. Even like, well, I don't know Sanskrit, and like, yeah, I don't even know the meaning, but just by chanting and hearing, we get purified. And it's not theory. I have experience of that. Sometimes like I'm in a funk, I'm in whatever, and we just start with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm uplifted. My consciousness is shifted. I experience it. And so every verse is a mantra. And then I appreciate what you're saying. I relate to what you're saying. And so like, I know for me, like my psychophysical intellectual nature, the more I kind of have some understanding of the meaning of the philosophy, then it supports me to align and absorb and integrate the mantra, and then the chanting takes on more meaning for me. Even in learning shlokas, Ishavasya Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagat Yam Jagat Tena Taktin Bujita Magda Kasyas Vidanam. So everyone has their natural quota. Don't strive to increase material happiness or decrease distress. Okay, strive for that eternal benefit. So the more I'm understanding the mantra, then I'm more likely to actually learn the shloka because it has meaning. Again, even if I have no clue what it means, it's purifying. But if I can, my philosophical intellect is engaged, that's very helpful. So, okay, as far as names, you say, well, okay, it's something like the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Well, that's names. So what's the philosophical meaning? So my understanding is when we're chanting mantras with composed of the divine names, divine means, just to put it in, let's call it maybe scientific terminology, because a word like divine can trigger like, oh, this, you need to believe something. But divine means sound vibration. It means personalities who are completely on the Shuddha Sattva platform. We talked about 4 modes. So the essential meaning of like the Maha Mantra is, okay, to put it generically, the essential meaning is it's a request. My dear God, please engage me in your service. I'm not saying I don't want to be narrow, that's the only meaning, but that's definitely a true meaning. My dear Krishna, my dear Srimati Radharani, please engage me in your service. So when the mantras contain names of fully trans-phenomenal personalities, then it helps me to go, okay, the meaning here is I'm making a request. Please let me be an instrument for your will to be done. Please engage me in your service. I liked how because you mentioned, okay, like Buddhist tradition, and every I have like in the I have some tradition, and so they won't use, it's not the word mantra, but there's mantras. We might say the Maha Mantra from the Old Testament, probably the mantra that Jesus chanted the most. Maybe he chanted Hare Krishna, I don't know, but okay, the Maha Mantra from the Old Testament, from the book of Deuteronomy. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol levavcha b'kol nafshecha b'kol modecha. Love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your might. It's completely a bhakti mantra. It's completely a bhakti mantra. So bhakti means cultivating that mood, that spirit of how can I serve you? Speaking to God. God's a generic. I don't really like the term God so much. It's generic, but so it's speaking to whether it's Allah or Christ, Krishna, and requesting. Like I mean, it's one thing to acknowledge the Supreme and please give me my daily bread. It's another thing. It's like, okay, how can I serve you? So when we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the meaning. We're requesting Krishna, Radharani, Balaram, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahayanya, combined form of Radha and Krishna. How can I serve you? So, like that's an aspect of the philosophy behind it that's helpful for me.
Thank you. I have one question here from the audience. Relates to something also was mentioned before by you, that also through the chanting, of course, happiness increases, stress reduces, unhappiness reduces. So, and of course, if you talk about Krishna consciousness, for example, we advertise, or like it is often advertised, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And always the happiness aspect is very much in the foreground. And at the same time, the question is, why then so many devotees who have been practicing and chanting for many years appear so unhappy and stressed? So it's kind of, we see like we have one kind of, you know, on our poster, that's what is there. And then often the people, you might be, they don't match what is on the poster, so to speak.
Yeah. So are we guilty of false advertising? That's a great question. I appreciate the question. Who wrote that question? It's from Facebook?
No, it's here also from Helen. She's here with us, like without camera so far, but like it's yeah, she sent it on the chat here. It's on Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Thanks for the question. I appreciate that question very much. Yeah. Okay. So no, it could be false advertising. That's why I said to say that it will reduce stress and increase happiness. It's somewhat superficial, because we might find, many might find that chant Hare Krishna, I've become more disturbed and agitated, and because, so this chanting Shuddha mantra, it's very powerful process. Just like, okay, as an example, let's say if I want to clean a room, and I look at the room, I thought, oh, this might take about half an hour. So I start cleaning, and I lift that pillow, and oh, there's all sorts of dirt, and there's old food under the sofa, and just like, okay, after half an hour, I realized like this is going to take 3 days to really clean this room in excellence, spotless. There's a lot more here than I realized. So chanting Hare Krishna, yeah, that it cleanses. So yes, to give another analogy borrowed from Srila Rupa Goswami, is given to us by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So it's the garden of the heart analogy. Okay, so chanting, it's like the watering process. Okay, so we water. So if we water, oh, then the flowers grow. That's beautiful. The flower of bhakti, the roses grow. Great. But what happens also when we water? Also, the weeds grow. And so when we chant, we might also become more conscious of weeds in our heart: greed, deception, laziness, lust, insincerity, propensity to manipulate, all sorts of shadow stuff comes to the light, and that might not make us happier. That might make us like, oh my God, this. I thought this room would take half an hour, but this will take 30 years. Okay. Now, at the same time, so that's why happiness can, I mean, there can be deep happiness, but it can be seen as in a superfluous way, superficial. So more it's like, but even that, I know for myself, okay, that process of self-discovery, it's not always happy. It's hardly ever easy. It's almost always not comfortable. It is, though, fulfilling. It's rich. I feel alive in that process. So that's what chanting does. And so here's the thing. By chanting, more weeds might come up that I didn't even know were there. So that's great if I see it as an opportunity of, oh, now I get to pull that weed of needing to feel superior to others and arrogance and obnoxiousness. Now I get to pull that weed of suddenly using feeling guilty to get attention from others, this attachment to be adored, this attachment to be famous or whatever. Oh, I didn't know that was there. Now it comes up. Great, I get to pull it. I get to remove it. And that clears the space for a deeper happiness, for a truly deeper fulfillment than ever before. So that's the effects of chanting. Now, what sometimes happens, related to Helen's comment and question, what sometimes happens is through the chanting process, stuff could come up, maybe on the first day, but what happens often, I know what happens often is maybe after a year or 2 years or 3 years, that through the chanting process, all sorts of gunk comes up from the mind, from the heart, the conscious, all sorts of gunk comes up, and it's not pretty. And then if I have too much of a ego that like I'm spiritually advanced, I can't have that stuff, then instead of taking advantage of it coming up and clearing it and pulling it and I'm free, if I have too much of an ego to admit that it's even there, then I'll push it down. And then it becomes like, you should chant and be happy like me. But I'm not happy because I'm spending 95% of my energy, well, to use an analogy, pushing down the emotional beach ball. That, okay, so like, let's say if through chanting, I become aware that actually I'm holding a lot of bitterness and resentment because of the way he treated me and what she did to me 2 years ago and the way he talked to me yesterday. I hold a lot of bitterness and resentment. But we all know, spiritual devotees, we're not bitter and resentful. We're compassionate and forgiving. Okay, so I won't even acknowledge that the bitterness and resentment is there. I'll pretend it's not there. Violate, like 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, don't be a pretender, don't repress. What can repression accomplish? Don't be a pretender. So then I'll push it down and I'll put on my forgiving, smiling, compassionate face. Okay. All right. So then I'm never going to deal with the resentment and bitterness because I'm not even acknowledging it's there. That's not a shortcoming of the mantra. The mantra is bringing it up and I'm actively pushing it down. I'm actively pushing it down. Or similarly, let's say I do, maybe I do some service and then I'm not getting the recognition. I'm not getting the recognition I want. I'm not getting the appreciation, but I'm telling, well, a devotee like me who chants, he doesn't want any appreciation. But that's not where I'm at. It's not true for me. It is said, the path to sainthood goes through adulthood. So adulthood means I meet myself where I'm at. I'm not doing a spiritual bypass. I'm not on some artificial, I'm so advanced trip. And it's just because like, well, yeah, I know maybe a saint wouldn't want to be recognized or appreciated, but hey, I just did something. I'd like some recognition for it. And that's what's true for me. That means you're not advanced, whatever. Okay. So it means meeting ourselves where we're at, and then for most of us, it's gradual advancement through pulling the weeds and watering. If we don't pull the weeds that come up when we water, when we chant, if we don't pull the weeds, the weeds will strangle the Bhakti Lata beach. Bhakti Lata means the flowers of devotion. And then so let's say I have a weed of arrogance. I like to feel better than others. I'm more intelligent. I've done more. Okay. Now, if I don't pull that weed, then every mantra I chant can water the weed. I got up at 3 a.m. What time did you get up? I learned all these Bhagavatam shlokas. How many shlokas do you know? I chanted 25 rounds per day. How many did you chant? Every mantra I chant, every shloka I learn will water the weed of arrogance. And it's not a shortcoming of the Shuddha Sattva mantras. It's my shortcoming, right? So the mantra is doing what it's meant to do. It's bringing up, it's watering the flower of devotion, and it's bringing up the weeds. My job is to pull those weeds. But if I'm too attached to a pseudo spiritual image, I'll just pretend it's not there. I'll push it down. And then, as Carl Jung said, till we make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct our life, and we'll call it fate. And then those weeds, which I'm growing, because I don't even want to admit they're there. So every time I water, those weeds drive my life from beneath the conscious surface. And then I might say, I'm getting no taste from this chanting. I'm getting no taste from Bhagavatam. I think I'll give it up because I am miserable, because I'm spending 95% of my energy cultivating the weeds and not even admitting that I'm doing it. So that's some psychological analysis there.
I think it was a very insightful and sharp and to the point response and description. I don't know if Helen would want to respond to that. Anyway, there will be time. So anyway, now we opened up already for questions, comments. So please, all of us, or all of you who are with us here on Zoom, please feel free. Either like switch your camera on and share your thoughts and questions. Same for those who are on Facebook. If you have anything you would like to ask David, please feel free to share it, and we will, like David will respond to it. So on Facebook we have it.
Hare Krishna, David Prabhu. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. So, one of the benefits of chanting the holy name, is it true that whatever we chant helps or remains with us from this body to the next?
What I'm hearing, Hiren Kara, but what I'm hearing, you're asking, when we chant, that stays with us even after we leave this body.
The benefits of chanting.
Yes, yes.
So that's the only thing we take from one body to the next. So the more you chant, the better it is for your soul's progress. Would that be correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Because in chanting, we're doing what the soul does in the fully enlightened state. And that's glorify Krishna, glorify God. So anything we do anything we do that's truly in Shuddha Sattva, yes, that's as one amongst many references, chapter 2, text 40 of Bhagavad Gita, Neha bikramo nashosti prachavayana vijite svapamapyasya dhammasya traite mato bayat. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, thank you, Helen. Yes, Krishna says that on this path of bhakti, anything we do, it's never lost. It's not like a material thing. Like, let's say if I want to practice medicine, and so it's a 6-year postgraduate program, and I study 2 years, and then I go, okay, well now I can do half a surgery. No, you can't do half a surgery.
No, not.
It's a 6-year program. You did 2 years. well, then I can work as an engineer. No, you didn't use those 2 years as an engineer either. No, you can't be an engineer. You can't work as a doctor. So this is not like that. That whatever we chant one Maha Mantra. Yes, that's the soul's eternal benefit. Also, when we leave this body, correct?
Thank you so much. But do you have any single example to which proves it? Is there any single example?
Okay. Well, there's lots of examples, like in the Vedas. I'm not sure what would constitute proof for you, but for example, an example that's right there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bharat Maharaj, he was a very exalted soul.
Yes, yes, yes.
He was very exalted. He was at a very high stage, bhava. And so he did a lot of chanting. He did a lot of bhakti yoga, and he was like deep in his bhava, bhakti. And then you probably know the story. So his attachment was nothing gross. He saved the life of a baby deer, got a little attached. Okay. So then, but so this next life, the soul went into the body of a deer. And then after that life went into the body of what became known as Jad Bharat. So as the king Bharat, all his bhakti stayed with him one life after the next. He never lost it.
Thank you so much. That was very interesting.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I have a question. Hare Krishna.
Hare
So what Hiran Prabhu just said about, chanting with, that idea that, I'll take it to the next birth sort of thing. But I feel that if you chant in that way, although obviously any chanting is good, would you not be in the mode of ignorance or passion because you're doing the chanting not with that, sort of Shuddha attitude? Because, to be sattvic is you just, like you mentioned, it's about chanting in a way of service. I'm chanting to be of service kind of thing. So be detached. So I think maybe that also relates to the point where Helen raised, people might be chanting day in, day out, but I don't know whether the mode you chant in matters more than probably the act in itself.
Thank you, Dee. Yeah, I appreciate your question and your sharing. Yeah, so I don't know if it's more than, but definitely what's our consciousness behind the chanting, that is vital. And so our consciousness can have so many material motivations, even like, oh, I want to relieve my stress. It's a material motivation. I'll share a story. So actually, I first moved into a Bhakti Yoga ashram in Israel, in the Middle East, in Israel, in 1984. And anyhow, so after about a year or two, one of the first services I accepted, I became temple president of the Tel Aviv temple. And so I remember, and we had programs 6 nights per week. We went on Harinam Sankirtan. And so one fellow, he was maybe in his early 20s, I'll say his name was Yonatan, and he became attracted, and he really had a very dark energy. He felt like a real loser in life. His whole life was like a failure, and like he was slumping. So he came to the temple, and he said, yeah, I want to practice this. And he joined, and we had a kind of an ashram in the suburbs in a town called Ranana. So we sent him there, and he even, not that this is essential for bhakti, but he even shaved his head, and he came to morning program at 4:30 a.m. And after 2 weeks, even after 2 days, but it was a complete transformation, He was effulgent and shining, just like this very shining, humble, powerful young man, full of knowledge. And then we took him for a program into Tel Aviv, where we had programs with many people. And then this Bhakti Yonatan, he experienced something that he'd never experienced before. He experienced that young, pretty women were attracted to him. It was an effect of the chanting. Now, I'm serious. I'm not making this up. It was an effect of the chanting. So anyhow, so after 2-3 days, he went with one of the girls, and he did. So I'm just using that example to illustrate your point. So he was transformed by the chanting, and he had an effulgence before, like, you know, people wanted to keep their distance like that. But so he had some material motivation, and his material motivation was fulfilled by the chanting. And then he went for it. And he always remained very friendly. Like, he would see us on the street chanting, oh yeah, Hare Krishna. He always remained very friendly. He never became negative. But I'm just using it as an example that came to mind. So that if we have any material motivation and we're attached to it, that will eventually take us away from the training, from the chanting. That's why Lord Chaitanya says, Trinata Pisani Chena Torari Vasahishnana Amani Namana Deda Kirtanya Sadahari, that to chant in a state of mind, a state of consciousness, more humble than a tree, more tolerant than a blade of grass, desiring no respect for oneself, ready to offer all respect for others. In that verse, all of those qualities, humility, tolerance, no desire for respect, truly respectful for others, and that comes before Kirtaniya Sadahari. So when we have those pure qualities, then we're ready to chant. 24 hours per day. And if we have any other motivations, like, oh, this chanting is unsettling because weeds are coming up, I'll give up the chanting. Or I'm chanting so I can become more attractive to the opposite gender. I'm chanting so my business goes well. Okay, well then if we get it, we might give up the chanting. So just as you say, Dee, yeah, there's different levels of consciousness in the chanting. And then that pure level is I'm chanting to engage in devotional service, to increase my service. Otherwise, we might be chanting, but if we have shadow motivations, we're not going to get out of the material world. Prabhupada describes, okay, pure Shuddhanam, pure chanting, we're chanting from love of Krishna. Namabhas means it's not pure, but it's not offensive. It's not filled with anartas. That's the stage of liberation. It's not love of Krishna, but it's liberation. Offensive chanting, then it's purifying, it's for eternal benefit, but will still stay in the material world, take birth after birth. And the cure for offensive chanting is more chanting. So even if my chanting's so offensive and distracted, other motivations, etan nirvidya mananam ichatam akatobayam, yoginam nripanirnitam haranama anukirtanam. It's described, we have all desires, we have no material desires, we just want love of Krishna. Whatever our level of material or spiritual desire, the doubtless and fearless means of success is chanting this Maha Mantra, and we gradually get purified to higher consciousness.
Thank you so much for that answer, because actually somebody once told me, a devotee, I was just having a conversation, I was struggling with my chanting, but that person said, they had another conversation with another devotee ages ago, that if you chant particularly first thing in the morning, so you start the day by chanting, Krishna will always give you time to do the rest of the things you need to do throughout the rest of the day. And honestly, I didn't quite believe it, yeah, whatever, sort of, you just kind of think, because I'd always chant, but I'd really since then made chanting a priority first thing. So I'd even been waking up like, 5 o'clock, 5:30, to do my chanting. I've genuinely seen the difference. Some things say I've got loads to do at work or during the day, and I've not got times for sanghas, but something would happen miraculously, a meeting would get cancelled, or
Yeah.
honestly, I just end up, I'd been able to tick off pretty much everything in my to-do list since I'd been sort of prioritizing chanting that, chanting first thing in the morning. So it does honestly work. Like, if you give Krishna the time of the day and the, first thing, Krishna then gives you time the rest of the day to do everything you want to do, really, which has been really a beautiful experience to kind of see it firsthand almost, because I was very skeptical, I must admit.
I appreciate you sharing, Dee, very much. Yeah, for me, it relates to that principle of putting the one in front of the zeros and trusting, Shraddha. Yeah, let me take care of let me put that one in front at the beginning of the day, and everything else will fall into place, even if I don't understand how it will fall into place. Right, so Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is never affected by the modes of material nature, but we're affected by the modes of nature. And that's one reason why early morning hours is especially recommended for chanting, because we'll tend to be more sattvic then compared to 2 in the afternoon or 10 o'clock at night. The mantra is always pure, but I'm more in the mode of passion or ignorance at other times. So I'm more receptive to be transformed by the mantra early morning. Thank you, Dee. Hare Krishna.
Yes, please feel free. If there's another question or comment, you're welcome to share.
I just have a quick question.
Anuragini, Hare Krishna, good to be with you.
Yes, I'm happy to be with you also. And thank you very much, Keshava Madhava, for this invitation. It's very nice to be with you all. Just a short question, David. How many people were chanting in your experiment back in the 90s?
Okay. I have all the details here. I could look it up exactly. But okay, what I generally remember is we had so there's 3 groups. We had about 30 to 35 in each group. Okay. And that might sound like not a big number. It's not like 3,000 or something. But, for the way psychological research works and the way the statistics work, it's actually a very strong number. It's actually a very strong number. And we had some drop out, not everyone stayed. And then there's a way to factor that into the statistics. So I do have the exact numbers are here. And
no, I'm satisfied.
Yeah,
I'm very satisfied. They must have had a
range.
lot of Sukriti, those who got the Maha Mantra, who were in the Maha Mantra group. Very nice.
Yes. Okay, so now a team led by Dr. Gopal Damirla, and I have some role on the team. We're continuing to study the effects of chanting mantra on heart health, and now this study is better in a sense, because those who don't chant those who chant the other mantra, kind of like after the study, then they get to be introduced to the Maha Mantra and chant that too. So that's nice. Thank you, Anuragini. Okay. Is there another? Yes, D. Yes, D.
No, I was just saying, I thought Keshava was speaking, but he's on mute.
Yes, that's correct. I was speaking. Thank you I'm sorry. Yeah, I was mentioning that it seems like there are no more questions or comments, and I suggest we can bring the session to a close. One way could also be like those who are with us here on Zoom and would like to perhaps shortly share either by a written comment or perhaps like make yourself like visible to share what you might take, what you take with you from the session, perhaps something you appreciate. So I'll have like a little round of sharing about what you might take with you from the session.
A sort of round of pearls, we sometimes.
Yes. Yes. And I might start with it. I feel like I take actually a lot. I feel enriched generally. Dhira Govinda Prabhu, I appreciate it a lot. So many insightful details you shared on all the questions. They're like general answers, but you can say this is how it is, but you packed in quite a lot of detail and perspective in so many aspects. I can't count it now, but I can, how to say, someone who ate can feel how he's filled. So similarly, I feel like enriched by all the details you brought in the session. Thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you, Keshava. Okay, I'll mention, let's see. So I see that Ines wrote, Prabhuji, your explanation on weeds that come up and should be pulled by us resonates very much with me. Please, could you elaborate more on the process of pulling the weeds? Dee's pearl is chant more in the mode of goodness. Patrick has provided a link. I'll be conducting a coach training webinar this Saturday, actually, 1 to 3 Eastern, be 7 to 9 Switzerland, Germany time. So I'll mention in regards to what Ines wrote that, yeah, okay, so experientially, conceptually, philosophically, we delve a lot more into the nuance of what that means to pull the weeds in these programs, like our Safetov seminars. It's been more than a year and a half, or not, been about a year and a half since we've conducted in-person Safetov seminars. And now I will be conducting Safetov foundational seminars in Colorado in September, and Safetov Advanced Seminar also in Colorado, October, November, in person. And like in our foundational seminar, we have a process called pulling the weeds. So we go more into it in detail, what that looks like. Also, part of a major branch of Safetov Institute is the Safetov Institute School of Transformative Coaching. And there we enter into detailed processes, methodologies, technologies of what it means to pull the weeds for ourselves and to support others, whether they're clients or friends or family members. At that webinar on Saturday, we'll taste a few drops of that. So thank you, Ines. Thanks for that. And thank you, thanks Dee for your pearl, and thanks Patrick for posting the link.
Okay, then yes, Sharadiya Rasa shared something. Question: we see that meditation has become increasingly popular the last couple of years, but is also becoming increasingly secular. Mindfulness, for instance, is presented as being stripped of its spiritual elements. So meditation is seen as a way to improve mental health instead of a way to connect with God. So how can we inspire people to take up mantra meditation in an authentic way which honors Bhakti's essential personality or personal philosophy?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that, Sharadiya Ras. Yes, so, well, a few things come to mind. One is we can empathize with people where they're at. Like if someone's doing meditation, even kind of stripped of its spiritual core, still they might get some value in some detachment from the whirlwind drama of material life, maybe. So we can appreciate that. Still, it can be like a bunch of zeros without the one in front. And we know that even if we have some temporary detachment from material drama, if we don't have the spiritual higher taste, we'll go back, we'll get absorbed again in the material drama tomorrow or next lifetime. So you know, another thing that comes to me is the Acharya principle, is the Acharya principle that that, like, you know, we can give increasing effort to be mantra chanters and practitioners of bhakti yoga, and by the quality of our personality, then people, including Nirvishesha Shunyavad type meditators, they can be attracted to the quality of our character, right? Sometimes it is said, I can't hear what you're saying because your actions speak so loudly. So that in practicing bhakti, that we become attractive, appealing personality, self-satisfied, kind, gentle, empathic, integrity, honest, truthful, clean. And then naturally people, meditators and others, then they're attracted. And it's like, well, where do you get those qualities? So personal example and empathy. And then of course also become stronger and stronger in the philosophy and cultivate our capacity to share the philosophy of the ancient Vedas given to us by Prabhupada effectively, so that also on that platform people get the completeness of bhakti. I'm reminded of, there's an analogy Prabhupada gives in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita related to the banyan tree, right? There's the real banyan tree and there's the reflected banyan tree in the river. And Prabhupada says, yes, so those kind of like the meditators who get the futility and emptiness of material existence, they're getting 180 degrees of the circle. And that's nice. This is illusion. But then there's the other 180 degrees, which really only the bhakti yogis get. Okay, sure, this is illusion. This is just illusory, false dancing or eating or adventure or friendship or romance or like that. But then there's the real banyan tree. There's spiritual relationships, spiritual color, spiritual form, spiritual personality. So philosophically and through our own character and through empathy, let's call it pathos, ethos, and logos. Pathos means people, they get that we're really caring about them. They get that we really understand, we're empathic, we understand them with compassion. And ethos is our personal character. Because even if we have good philosophy to share, if people aren't impressed, moved, inspired by our character, they probably won't really be open to what we have to say. It is said, people don't care what you know till they know that you care. And logos. Logos is the logic, the philosophy of chanting as a way to bring us closer to love of God. So ethos, pathos, and logos. Thank you, Hiren. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate this opportunity.
Seems, yes, I read, I'm a bit hesitant to say, because then always when I say something, a question or comment pops up. Yeah, chant and be happy is my pearl, Anu said. Thank you, Anu. Yes,
All right.
Yes, thank you again, David, for taking the time to join us and to share all your insights and realizations, your knowledge with us. Yes, and also thanks to everyone who who joined us on Zoom today. Very much appreciate that you took the time and showed the interest to enter into this topic, which I find is a very, how to say, relevant topic. You know, it's actually the most, how to say, common practice of spirituality, like mantra chanting, recommended for this time and age. And So I wish you a nice evening and how to say, a successful career in chanting the mantras, and looking forward to have you also another session of holistic spirituality, and hopefully also David will join us in the future again also for one or another session. Thank you very much. Sorry, Shadi, I mean the question, we can resend it to David, and maybe you can also, like with email, you can maybe exchange, because I think also for me it'd be good to close the session here time-wise.
Yeah, I want anyone can write to me by email. You're welcome to write to me by email. Kesava has my email. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.